Everyone, and I am super excited today because I have one of my favorite profession uh, uh, artists today, and I call her an artist because her profession surely is super artistic. And today I'm here with Michelle Araujo. Am I right in pronouncing
Yes,
your surname? All right. Araujo, all the way from London. So before I start your introduction, Michelle, let me first welcome you, and then I would like to tell my guests all about you.
thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So I think both religion and science are based on faith,
Yes.
and whether it is a belief that there is existence of God, or if there is a law of physics. I think what is the baseline, the foundation is the faith, is the belief. And here is a lady who's going to tell us the bridge between science and faith and belief. And maybe after the end of the conversation today, we would be more clear about everything that we hear from Michelle today. So Michelle is a psychic clairvoyant. She is a tarot and Lenormand leader. She is a counselor and psychotherapist, a writer, and a spiritual facilitator. And what I would like more Michelle to talk about herself, but definitely it gives me immense, pride in telling about her citations, which is in the year 2017. She was presented the All Ladies League Award for creating bonds of beyond boundaries and faiths for a more equitable and sustainable world in New Delhi, India. Yes. And in the same year, Michelle was elected as one of the 8 things to do in Dubai when she was present in Dubai. And in the year 2018, she co-authored in a very handsome book called Breakthrough, which was Secrets of Growth and Happiness, and bounce backs from women around the world. And definitely, Michelle, I would want to know a bit about the chapter that you authored in this book in
Yes.
our conversation. But yes, I think she has proved to be miraculous and very impressive, even to the skeptics who do not believe in this entire phenomena. So yes, Michelle. Firstly, I want to start today's conversation by telling you that I'm very happy that you agreed to do this awesome session with me today, wherein we would know so much about, your profession and the cross culture. You being born in Brazil, your spirit from Brazil, but you residing in London, and you love India because I can see that Indian outfit on you, which you are especially wearing for us today. So thank you so much. And yes, the floor is all yours, Michelle. And I would like you to start by telling us, firstly, about your early days as to you are from Brazil. So how did this entire this phenomena hit you, and when did you realize that you are a born psychic reader and you can assist and help so many around you, and you were able to recognize this advantage that you have inside you? So can you tell us as to how early it was in life, and when did you make it into your profession?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very, very excited. I love these conversations. I think we all gain. Brazil is a very spiritual country, is a melting pot of many religions. And I was very lucky in a way because my parents, they are all, both of them, very spiritual, my mom and my dad. So I don't really remember not being a psychic, to be honest, because I hear more from my mom that she said I started to talk funny things, when I was about 5 years old. I saw my grandfather who passed away 1 week before I was born, and I described him, and I was a child. So I grew up in that environment. My mother used to go to spiritual churches. My father also dabbled in the esoteric, but they are all Catholics. This is how Brazil is so, unbelievable, because you can be a Catholic and do all these things. And I was very encouraged by my family to pursue that further if I wanted to. They let me free. At around 9 years old, I started reading gypsy cards with the Lenormand cards. In Brazil, they are very, very popular. So I did that, you know, in the car park when I was a child and all that. But then, you know, life got in the way. When I was around 15 to 16, I was having a lot of problems at school. And then I started really reading. By 17, 18, I was already a professional reader. But when you say, when I realized that I had that, it was actually not in a good way, I have to say. You know, these things, they come with a price, because when you have this kind of sight, you don't see only the good things. I remember I had a boyfriend, 15, 16 years old, college stuff, you know, and I read the cards, and it was like the Three of Swords, horrible card, like rupture, separation. And I was like, oh, you know, this is not working. And the guy ended the relationship.
Mhm.
And I knew that, you know, there were other times as well when I just felt this is not right, and it wasn't right. So it's something that takes time to for you, for me in the case, to believe, because we are always used to believe other people telling us.
So,
So
like
I was like,
as early as 5 years old, when you realize that you're psychic and your parents were spiritual, is it in the
yeah,
Brazilian culture that, just like Indians, are they very spiritual? And can you tell about that, like the roots of your native land? Are they more like
yes.
the Indians, where they're very spiritual, and whether it is psychotherapy or it is like we have palmistries, and you have the tarots or the gypsy cards. So
Yes,
yes, so is it a common exercise back in your country?
it is, but I think India is ahead of Brazil. I
Mm.
have to say. I visited India, I know the country, and they are ahead of us, because in India, fortunately, they have the advantage of age. India is a country that is like as old as time, you
Mhm.
know. Brazil is a relatively new country. What happens in Brazil is that we had a melting pot of different aspects of spirituality. For example, the slaves who came, they had their own spirituality that today merged into Umbanda, Candomblé, Voodoo, and stuff.
Okay.
So that is very strong in Brazil. Then we had some French colonizers as well, that they brought up some theories from Allan Kardec regarding reincarnation and all that. And in the very countryside of Brazil, that is a bit like India, we have old ladies who bless people, you know, and they cleanse with the herbs and the plants and all that. So in Brazil, we have this multi-dimensional kind of belief, but all encased in Christianity. So there is even a sense of guilt that I shouldn't see palmists, I shouldn't see tarot readers because of the Bible, but people do that because it's a very human thing to do, to want to know about the future. Comparing that to India, what I perceived from India is that doctors, even like, you know, I'm talking about surgeons, you can work side by side with a spiritual healer, in the way that the Indians eat, and they devise the personality types and all that. So it's a bit unfair, because India is ahead.
That connects me to the next question, that as you said, like it's like a parallel therapy which can work with science as close
Yes.
to medical science, and
Yeah.
this therapy can work as a parallel therapy with other sciences. What is
Same as China.
Yeah, so can you tell me what is the relevance in modern time? Like you have clients in Singapore, in Japan, in Dubai. So can you give us an idea, because it's so important that this particular aspect of science, the tarot reading, a psychiatrist, a psychic healer,
Yes.
in your case, why is it called a parallel science, and how effective is it when it works with other sciences, as whether it is a medical science or even the science to estimate tomorrow's economic international markets, because so much of
Yeah.
statistics goes around in accessing how the markets are going to open, close, and so much is actually it's and if you really reckon it's more like a science. So whether it is
Yeah.
a medical science or is it a market science, I do know there are a lot of people who are businessmen who do believe in tarot reading.
Oh, yes.
So can you highlight, as the master of this, how do you see that it stands as a parallel medium to other sciences and its relevance in modern time?
Yes, thank you. Well, let's go to your first question. What I have learned in the different countries that I visited is that the East is a lot more open than the West. I even see by the degree of respect, like in China, in India, in Singapore, they are very respectful of psychics and readers. They really believe, for them is a normal profession. In Dubai as well, these countries are very spiritual. And when you read for different people, you start to learn about the culture of the country and the kind of spirituality they have. Even in the themes of the readings, that I see a parallel here, that the people, I would say, from the East, they are more interested in the big questions. And the people in the West, they are more interested in daily questions, day to day and all that. Yes. Now, the parallels really between sciences and spirituality is very sad that men became almost robotic, because if you look at the history of psychotherapy before Freud, who was the psychotherapist? Who was the therapist? Was the shaman, the old woman in the village, the imam, the spiritual leader? So therapy started spiritually. The
True.
shaman, those figures.
True.
But what happened is that, evolution, men started to study this, and I'm very thankful they did, because people used to be thrown in loony bins without any rights. That was good. But I think that after, I would say, the big discoveries, the great phase of psychotherapy with Freud, Adler, Jung, it became super professional. And I don't say this lightly. Some professionals started to see humans as problems to be resolved. As experiments, you have a projection, you have a rejection, you are reacting. This is transference, countertransference. All these terms, in my opinion, they kind of, in a way, dehumanized the therapeutic process to the point that it was very clinical. White, clean office, if you know what I mean. With the boom of the 90s, that I think is when people really started to seek alternative therapists, I think that is when therapy started to open up. And now what you see is the appearance of different interventions like coaching, like mindfulness and all that. And then when people say, well, coach is not therapy and mindfulness, well, who decides this is the client? Not us.
True.
We shouldn't really judge people, because humans, they need different approaches. there is that person who really wants a very psychodynamic therapy. Yes, I want to talk about my childhood and my traumas and all that, but there is that person that only needs guidance to cope with a fear of flying. So for me, I embrace this in a very positive note because we need to be diverse. We need to be having responsibility, but also respecting different options because, you know, science and spirituality, they can be integrated like you do in India, like they do in China, that Chinese medicine in China, in certain regions of China, is more sought after than clinical medicine,
So you
as
know,
you
the
probably
belief
know.
in the spiritual healing is more. But if you could
Yeah,
shine a light about my second question, I do understand the way you've graphed that from
yeah,
where this therapy actually came from and how it
yeah,
actually came from spiritualism and then
yeah.
how it is now embraced in our modern times. But would you be able to tell us about a little more clarity about when I asked you that how does this particular science, the psychic healing, helps a medical stream? I mean, does it contradict sometimes? Is the client sometimes in turmoil? Do you think how what would you say is a rate of positivity or help in terms of medical calmness that apparel therapy works? Have you witnessed a client which you have who is taking medical help
Sure.
but has taken your help as well in combating a disease? And how far is it helpful?
Perfect. Well, you know, as we know, doctors, they clean, they address the body.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
go, you break your leg, you go to a doctor.
Right.
But once the doctor treats you, then the healer does the rest, the trauma, you know, the bad faults, the fears, and all that. Uh, you know, spiritual healing is powerful because it connects more the client and the healer rather than the doctor. It starts by the relationship. The relationship between me and my clients, for example, although is very professional, but is a lot more personal. You know, I have more time to listen to them. And also, spiritual healers, they tend to see things on a holistic level. You know, it's like you go to a doctor, you have a headache. He said, okay, did you have that before? Here's 2 paracetamols, goodbye. You go to a spiritual healer, the healer is going to trace, you know,
From
your
where the
life.
trauma is originating, as to from where you started to feel the way you're feeling
Yeah. And the healer is going to make a parallel between the headache and what is happening inside that person,
now. Right.
you know. So I would say that spiritual healers, and when I say spiritual healers, I'm not only talking about Reiki and massage and Theta healing. You know, I think that any connection that you have with another human being that creates well-being is healing.
That's true. That is very, very simply put, but I think that's so beautifully said, Michelle. Now, another thing which is interesting about your portfolio is that if one side you're a psychic healer, on the other side you're a tarot reader. So now I want to ask you another facet, which is in medical history. Okay, now how far does tarot reading come into the picture? So, like, if you have a client and you say, don't travel on this day is not good for you, or this month something bad might happen, or you must invest in this because this month looks good in prosperity. So, how far do you think that does the tarot reading helps as a parallel therapy?
Right. Well, you know, there are different kinds of readers. I must add that. Uh, the way that I conduct my readings, I would never say to people, invest on that, don't do that. But what I think the cards do, okay, is that it is more about even them is the connection between me and my client, because what I do, I probably connect with the client's higher self, who knows everything, the past, the present, and the future. I retrieve that information that is nonverbal, and then I use the cards to translate that information. So what I would do probably with a client, I would say, the client comes and says, okay, should I choose this job or that job? Simple question.
Right.
What I would say, okay, let's have a look at job number one. This is what I see. These are the prospects.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a look at job number two. That's what could happen. The decision is yours, you know. I always leave the decision, the final decision, to the client. So I never give advice. I don't therapize clients. I leave the two professions very separate. You know, I do predictive reading. I believe in predictive reading, you know. People who say, oh, you know, the tarot doesn't predict things. Well, it does.
So
It
if you
does.
believe in predictive reading, do you predict reading for your clients professionally?
Yes, I do.
You
You
do?
know, it would be unfair. It would be a lie to say that I don't. Yes, I do.
And do you think, I had this question written to ask you for
Yeah.
much later, but now that we are in sequence, let me ask you this. So predicting the future, going against the odds of present, how fair is it?
Well, you know, the way that you predict the future, is an art. You
Okay.
know, it's an art. I cannot really intellectualize that process because, as I said, it's nonverbal. I don't even remember readings that I've done. I know that I have a kind of 75% of, you know, of being right.
Mhm.
So, but it's very simple. You know, you just have to see the situation and you have to analyze it with the client, and then you deliver. Now, you know, when people say, well, predicting is dealing with fatality, you know, nothing is written on stone. That's right. You
Yeah.
know, there are different kinds of predictions. V, for example, I could predict that you would travel. I don't know where, you know, I don't have all the answers. I could predict that you are going to leave your job because I see unhappiness in the job here. I don't know which is going to be your next job. So, you know, predictions are not like I am going to predict that you are going to die. I don't do that. You know, of course, I don't have that power. But the prediction is open to interpretation.
I understand. And so coming back to my question, if you could share a light,
Yeah.
when I asked you that when people come for prediction, simple prediction,
Yes.
and as you say, the prediction is an art, and you channelize it to be as normal and as colloquial and as
Yeah.
local. But do you think that living day to day life and having your experiences and dealing with the issues, is that better? Or, you know, I have a tarot reading and I know that, all right, you know, my tarot reader has told me I might suffer in my job, or I might
Right.
have a little bit of an health issue. So that kind of scares me. So
Yeah.
that's like defying my today's happiness. So what would you say? Is it okay to just wanting to know about your future? Why
No,
not just take it one day
no,
at a time?
no, no. It's not okay. Your question is extremely relevant, and I really hope, you know, the people who are watching us or will watch us later pay attention to this. Predictions are just perspectives,
Right.
you know, are just perspectives. if you come to a reader expecting the reader to predict your life to the point that you are sitting, well, I know I'm going to get money anyway, so I'm going to do nothing. What's going to happen? You will affect the mechanism
Right.
that engineer that prediction. I always tell a little story that I will tell now, in obviously very, in a short way, that the wise man in India was in the Himalayas on his cave, and two young men came to visit him for a prediction. And he said, well, next year you will be king and you will be dead. So they went home petrified, and then the guy who was going to be the king started to get belligerent, arrogant, unkind, and the one who was going to die became a very good person. Next year came, the predictions didn't manifest. So they went back to the wise men and said, look, you are a fraud. You said I was going to be king and he was going to die, and we are both here. I'm not king, he's still alive. And the wise men said, no, I was right. My prediction was right. But when I said you are going to be king, you affected your karma by being arrogant, unkind, belligerent, to the point that you are no longer to be king in this life. And you, yes, you are going to die, but due to your good actions, faults, and deeds, your life has been prolonged. You know, there you have it. You know, a prediction will only manifest if you do your bit. I can have a young girl here coming, well, will I pass my exams? And all the cards are positive, but they will be positive if she continues to invest in her studies.
Right. That's
It's a two-way road. You
right.
know, it's a two-way road. I can cast the prediction based on what we have today.
So karma is related to predictions.
Yes.
Very much so. So
But you change that, you
right. So
know.
I had this question coming from this viewer who wants to know that do you think tarot reading is a form of a neuroscience? And
That's an excellent
or is it
question.
type of an Akashic record reading?
I agree with the Akashic recording, totally. I'm not sure about the neuroscience, but I definitely would bet that it should be a neurotransmission system, you know, that we access what in therapy we call the transpersonal, the beyond, what goes beyond, you know, so definitely that. Akashic records, yes. Yeah.
And do you think that psychic healing is also very neuroscience?
I could say that.
Mm-hmm.
I could put my neck on the line and people say that I am a whack, but I don't think so, you know. I don't think so. I think it can be a form of neuroscience.
So when
Like telepathy.
right,
They, you know, telepathy 500 years ago was evil and evil, and now we know that there is a scientific mechanism that can explain that process.
that's
So yes, I could say it's part of neuroscience. Yeah, why not?
yeah. All right. So tell me one more thing now, coming to the times that we are in now, Michelle. When all of this was about to happen or happening, did you have a psychic sense that something like this, a turntable is on the road, something like this, or a change in the universe is very predictable? So my first question is, do you think you had a know-how about it, like a sort of a deja vu about it? And now that we are in it, what is the best that you advise to everyone who are in these times?
Okay, Yes, I had that insight a long time ago because I also have my own beliefs, you know. And what I think is that since 2012, humanity has been, I would say, evolving into this dramatic crescendo that we all felt all around the world. We all had things to do. I mean, in the UK, we had Brexit. You know, in other countries, we had other changes of systems as well, some very interesting leaders coming up, you know. It's all part of the plan, I would say. But I am a tarot reader. So I would like to simplify this. For example, the year 2020, okay? I am dealing with this on a tarot way. So in 2020, the card number 20 is, I don't know if you can guys see that. The
Yes,
name of the card is
yeah.
Judgment.
Yes.
And you can see this, okay, right, as a sense of the angel playing the trumpet and the people raising from a state of unconsciousness towards consciousness. So what I see here, I interpret this, okay? This is how I will interpret this. The angel, okay, could be the virus, something that comes and its call is so loud that the collective, because if you see in the card, there's not one, two, or two people, is, you know, the collective raises up. So I knew that 2020 was going to be a year of transition, you know. There is no way back. We will not be going back to how we used to live because it's time to evolve. But I am not the bringer of doom, okay? I think that we need to go through this experience together, collectively. This is going to make people think a lot about their lives, who they are, what they are doing, okay? And what I think is that next year we will start to get the answers, because at the moment is about restriction, you know, is about introspect, really. But if we look at us as humans, there are some very interesting aspects that we can reflect, okay, without judgment, just reflecting. A few years ago, when really YouTube and, you know, videos started to get very, you know, popular, we started to say things like, I want to go viral. Yeah. Someone went viral. Right. Let's go viral. Look at the words that we have been using.
So you think the words also have a very profounding effect on the energy around us?
I think so. I absolutely think so, because, you know, especially when these words are used by many people, it's almost like an invocation.
True. True. So this is where my next question goes, and I had it written that what you just said, this is more a time to introspect. Yeah. This is a time which is of a collective growth, a collective introspection, a collective wholesome know-how about the future, which is never going to be what it used to be. So what are these restrictions that we are in right now teaching us? And well, what do you, as someone who is a little more learned about all of this, especially about, you know, an aura where you sort of magnetize more than we, you know, I would want you to tell the viewers, as a collective whole, what we can do in these times.
Right. Before we think about the collective, we have to think about the individual.
True.
You know, we cannot heal the world before we at least attempt to heal ourselves. It's like being on an airplane. You first put the mask on yourself before you attempt to put the mask on your child. Now, you know, it depends. I can only talk from my experience. I don't like this, the collective. I don't like to lecture people. But for example, I had a trip booked for the 19th of March, Dubai and Hong Kong. This was going to be a very profitable trip. I had just paid my tax return. So I thought that's gonna be good. And the trip was canceled, you know. But instead of thinking, oh my God, I'm losing money, I thought, let's see this from another point of view. Imagine if I was going to suffer an accident in Dubai, or if, you know, there was a reason why my trip was canceled. And instead of fighting it, I don't do that. For me, if the universe sends me a sign, I will accept, you know. I was fine with that because that was not provoked by me. Now, you know, restrictions, people cope differently. As we know, V, there are some people that they are saying, I'm having me time, I'm meditating, you know, I'm going back to source. And there are other people who feel claustrophobic
True.
and suffocated. So that differs from person to person, but the main question, because that is a question, is not the answer, is what do this period has to teach me?
True.
You know, in my case, you know, I have decided that I'm going to make a lot of changes, you know, that I will prioritize other things. I have received phone calls from friends that I haven't seen in a very long time. I have noticed a trend on this.
Mhm.
Is that people are not sending me text messages anymore. They are calling me like in the old days.
Yeah, true. Very
So the distance makes you crave real contact, not virtual contact.
true.
So I think that these restrictions, if nothing else, they will assist us in becoming humanized again,
See, I reached out
because
after
we
some.
were all very virtual, and me too. You know, I'm not a saint on this. You
Right.
know, it was all text message. I was getting annoyed when people were calling me uh, before telling me first, what the hell is that? I mean, in my time, you used to call your friend. You didn't have to say, V, I'm going to call you 7 o'clock today.
True.
So we are going back to a more humanized society.
True. So that whole mechanized form of living is now getting diluted, and we are
Yeah.
back to what probably our ancestral homes used to be, which are more human, more local, more,
Yes.
originating from the family point of view, where friends
Yes.
were more family rather than.
Friends and family.
So I really like what you just said, that one thing that these times are teaching us is to be introspective, but to be first introspecting your own self, realizing what your
Yeah.
feeling is, what are the shift that you can recognize is taking place in you, and then probably we can look forward towards a more collective approach in dealing with this, because yes, you are right. There's so many, anyhow, a lot of mental changes which I see in people these times. Either, they are reading more, they are working on their knowledge spectrum more. So, yes, there are a lot of changes, definitely. Um,
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to add one thing as well, because I think that's important, is that lots of people are also facing shadows at this time. You know, we have to bear that in mind. Let's say people who have problems with drink or drugs, you know, or people who are living unhealthy relationships or domestic violence, or people who are grieving. We have to see that, you know, these restrictions, they will really make a lot of issues that we try to brush under the carpet. Now we will have to face it.
True, true. Michelle, I have this very important question coming from a viewer. Again,
Yes.
this is something which talks about the future, where she's asking that we are seeing so much of transitional changes and phases around us where there is death and disease. How is tomorrow going to be? When can we actually? She's actually asking you, according to your readings, what can you say? When will things be better? Are they going to be better, or are we sitting on a peak of something more disastrous? So, would you want to comment something on that?
Yes, I will comment on this. And for your lovely, uh, you know, lovely reader, what I think is that It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But what I see is that the transition point is started around 2019 and it's going to go until about 2021, 22. Okay? This is not going to be healed overnight. This is a collective process because people are resisting. You see lots of very unpleasant things going on as well, okay? Unless we start listening, you know, instead of thinking it was China, it was America, it was Russia, you know, it was a freak, it was where we are now. Are we treating another person well? Are we doing the law of retribution, that if someone does something nice to me, I retribute? That is going to take another 1 or 2 years because we are now in shock. We are in shock.
True.
Some of us, we don't know, we don't feel that we are in shock, but we are in shock, okay?
Definitely.
So first is more like the 5 stages of grief, that first you are in shock, then you don't accept, and lots of people, oh, this virus doesn't exist, then you get depressed.
True.
Then you accept it, okay? So we have to accept this as it is. It doesn't matter at the moment, okay? I'm not being stupid here. It doesn't matter where it came from, where it's going. What matters is where we are now.
True.
1 feet after the other, because if we concentrate too much in the future, we are not going anywhere because the future starts now.
True.
Okay? The future starts now. So I think that around 2021, we are going to see an improvement of this, okay?
Right. Right.
I think apart from this disease, we can expect more things to come. I would talk about earthquakes. I would talk about volcanoes. I would talk about things with the sea. I would talk about nature.
True.
Okay, we will have some, I don't like to call natural disasters. I would prefer to call nature reactions.
Beautifully, beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Nature is going to react. We had to be locked in because we were killing the planet.
True, true. And where do you see India in the future post all of this is over?
Well, you know, I think India is going to be in a very powerful position. I am biased. I have to say, you know, I shouldn't make predictions for India because it's a country that I like.
I think the last life of yours, Michelle, you were an Indian, and that Indian outfit, I must tell you, is looking crazily killer on you. And
You know, I see a lot of parallels between India and Brazil, believe me or not. You know, we were countries who were colonized. We are very spiritual. We are a little bit crazy and dodgy when we want to be.
we
Very
love
happy
music,
people who
we
like
love girls,
partying.
we love food.
Oh, partying, you know, Brazil likes partying, India like partying.
Right.
India can do party. Brazilians like their food. India, I mean, when I went to India, I put a stone. So, you know, that's how it is.
Right.
India is going to come up in a powerful position because now India has started to take responsibility.
True.
That's what I have noticed, you know, that Indian people are very intelligent, they are very capable, they have the spirituality to back that off. I mean, you cannot top India, maybe China and, you know, the old world, really. What I think is that the India is going to be very powerful for a very simple reason, because what they said since the beginning of humanity is going to be proved true.
That's wonderfully said. But
Reincarnation is true, you know, mindfulness is true. Everything that in the 80s we used to say, all this Indian nonsense and
yes,
now they are like, well, I'm not sure. And then later it's going to be actually, yes. So India has that millennia, spiritual inheritance that I dare say very respectfully that in the past they didn't protect very well.
True, true.
You know, and now they are stepping up.
They're stepping up. So, Michelle, do you think that to tarot reading or psychic healing or physiotherapy, different cultures approach it different ways? Because you have clients who are in Dubai and China, Japan, Singapore. So, do you think different cultures approach you in a different way in their thought processes, in
Oh, yes.
expressing? And
Yes.
can you give us a few examples? It will be interesting to know about this cross-culture share.
Yes, it's fascinating. I have to say, it's fascinating because, you know, when I travel to these countries, you have to go with a neutral mentality. When I travel to a country, I don't compare to my country or to the UK. I am there. If I am in India, I am Indian. If I am in Dubai, I am an Arab. If I am in China, I am Chinese. That's number one, okay? A reader shouldn't attempt to change the culture. What I think really is that, let's say Chinese people, the way they approach regions, Chinese people, people from Hong Kong, I love Hong Kong as well, they approach in a very respectable way. Like in Japan, before they start the reading, they bow to the tarot reader, and after they bow as well. I would say that people from China and Hong Kong, they like a region in a sense that they want to know about money, about prosperity, about their businesses. They have candles outside their doors, incense outside their doors, and all that. So it's very much like that. Will my business prosper and all that? They are very respectful and very punctual. When I go to the Middle East, the first time I went there, I thought, what am I doing here? These people are Muslims, you know. Wow, I had a shock. I had a big shock because the Arabs are very spiritual, extremely spiritual. They are very discreet. There is a big difference is that the Arabs, they like to be very private, you know, so because of the culture. But I have a lot of Arab business clients, you know, that I never expected. Here in the UK, what I see is that people come to readings with an open mind. It's like, well, you know, let's see what happens. Let's see if she's right.
Oh, okay.
The West, not only the UK, the West is very much like, let's see if she's right. You know, and in India, what happens is that they are already very spiritual. They know the game and they understand very well what I am saying. Okay. But it's a very, you know, tarot reading is a very feminine scenario.
Why
You
do
know,
you
because most of my clients are female.
Okay.
You know, there is a lot of I would say girl power into that. You know, that the most interesting thing, and this is in every culture, and comparing to my therapeutic activity, I can have 5 counseling sessions with a client, and only after the 5th session, they will tell me, I was raped, I had a trauma, and that. In a tarot reading, the client will tell me that straight away, because they know it's only 1 hour, and also they have that protection. I may never see her again. It's complete privacy.
True.
Okay. So there is that immediate connection here that in counseling you have to take time to build. In terms of subjects, obviously I have to retain the confidentiality of my clients, but just as a bit of fun, okay? The Chinese, they like to know about money. In Dubai is a bit about money, but a lot about love. In India, I see a lot of questions about studies.
Certainly. That's
Is,
true.
is everybody studying in India? Because I think they are.
Yes.
You know, about studies, about children. You know, it's I have been a spy for many mothers, and I know this is a bit unethical, but in India they are very in tune with their studies, their knowledge. They ask a lot of spiritual questions about past life and next life, which I haven't had that even in the UK. In Brazil, it's all about love. Am I gonna marry this guy? Is he betraying me? And you know, so it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
So, before we end today's show, Michelle, I would want you to tell to viewers that in case they want to connect to you for the tarot or the psychic healing, if you could tell them about your website or your page on Facebook, and definitely I'm there as a connect. But if directly you want to tell them about the links where they can reach out, I think it's going to be awesome.
Oh, thank you so much for this. Look, I'm not really very good in selling myself. I have a very modest page on Facebook called Deja Vu Tarot. My website is www.michellearaujo.co.uk, or you can just put Michelle Araujo Tarot on Google and it's going to come out. But on Sunday, midday, I will be doing a live as well. But this is a live where people send me their questions and I will read to them live. And that's free. So if anybody wants to come up on Sunday, it's going to be midday at UK time. So maybe too early in India, but Sunday, people are in lockdown. So if they want to
We
have
have
some
no
fun.
day as a Sunday right now because everything is like gone into one amalgamated day.
Yeah.
Yes, that is how it is. But I think what I get to know from today's conversation with you is that this is a science which is parallel, this is a science which is informative, this is a science which is true. As true as we can say that whether it was the American astronomer Carl Sagan who believed that soon humans are going to get this extraterrestrial signals from across the Milky Way, and he spent his entire life listening into space, or whether it was the astrophysicist Thomas Gold from the Cornell University who actually said that there is nothing called fossil fuel. At the end, it boils down to faith and belief, and that is
Yeah.
all what humans are all about. That as long as you believe, as long as you have faith, it is all that matters. And even
Yeah.
these times of awakening where we are in right now, I totally resonated, Michelle, when you said this is a time for individual introspective. This is a time when we try and reach out to our spiritualness inside, because that is what is going to help us pass
Yeah.
our present day and not just speculate about the future as to what
Yeah.
is going to happen, because the future will be bright if only you make today which is right. So I think that is very, very beautifully explained in today's session. And viewers, this is what Stability Series is all about, where I have fascinating women like Michelle who come, who tell us about their professionalism, who tell us about their honest work, and we are able to get so much of information about that and use that in these times to make our knowledge and our growth optimum. So thank you, Michelle, for joining me today. It was an honor, and I'm looking forward to get my tarot reading done soon. You were able to convince me by the end of the show that I should get one myself, and I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be connecting with you very, very shortly. So thank you so much. And what time is it in London right now?
Now is 2:20.
In the afternoon. So yes, I wish you an awesome afternoon,
Thank you so much.
I really am glad I connected to you for this entire world of psychic reading and tarot. And thank you so much, Michelle. And I'm going to be seeing you very soon and connecting with my reading very shortly.
Thank you so much. And I wish everybody who was watching a very good day, a very good weekend, and a very good life. It's gonna get better. It's gonna get, hang on there, have faith, stick to your beliefs, and and just embrace it. There is no way back. We are all on the same sea, not on the same ship, but on the same sea.
Beautifully said, Michelle. So thank you, viewers, for today. And I'm going to be seeing you very soon on Sunday again with another phenomenal woman who will be taking us into the world of travel and food. And I'm super excited to share that story with all of you very soon. Thank you, Michelle, and bye-bye. And I'll see you shortly.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.